Welcome back to another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection, and I'm back again for her third time. Third? I think it's your third.
Third.
Is
Third.
Chrissy. Third by yourself, but you did four because you did a panel, I think, right?
Yep, that's right. For
Yeah.
the Ohio girls.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so you've been this is your fourth time technically on. I took a long break. I needed to, as I've said in other episodes, but I needed the break. I needed the hiatus. I needed to work. I'm back to work. Like this isn't my full-time job anymore, so like I'm back to working. So it's taking up a lot of my time of where I can like do this. So what's been going on? Because we lost touch for a minute. And just because you're living your life, I'm living my life. You were avoiding people because I think we're gonna get into it. But yeah, like we didn't talk for like 4 months, but that was definitely 50% both ways. Like, it wasn't like you were ignoring my texts. It wasn't like I was hitting you up every day and it was just like leaving me on red. It was that you were living and I was living, and both doing pretty shitty about it, I guess. So, what's been going on with you? You have a new sober date?
I do. July 15th, 2022.
Okay. So
Yep.
what was it? What ended up happening?
Um, well, to be honest with you, I lost my job. I resigned. So I didn't have health care. So I thought, because it's been on my heart for like over a year, I thought it would be a great time to get off my Adderall since I wasn't having health care. I didn't have a choice. Also, it was a great time. It gave me the freedom, flexibility to cope with and deal with things how I needed to during that time through withdrawal and what have you.
So were you addicted to Adderall?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like, but this was it. It didn't feel like it was as taboo because you were getting them through your doctor and filling them at a regular pharmacy, so you didn't feel like it was an addiction.
Right. And I got a crap ton of them. So it's like I had so much leisure, I guess, to just take them how I wanted without anybody noticing.
Because if you were working before, then it was a lot easier to just like you didn't have moments of boredom to like escape. You were too busy with work to be able to escape into a drug, right?
Right.
And but now you're working again,
Yes.
and that's exciting. But I think the most exciting thing is you quitting Adderall came before this new job, right?
Yeah. It had to happen.
Why did it have to happen?
I just wasn't functioning. Like my relationships all were struggling. Being a mom was everything was just struggling because of my addiction. Even though then that's like what we think about people is, oh, they're successful, they have a job, a house, a car, kids are taken care of, blah blah blah. But there's this addiction, and it's still there. And it's like we don't realize that unless it's somebody sticking a needle in their arm, with not being able to meet their needs. Then it's an addiction. Then it's a problem. But no, it was a problem for me, and I pretty much had my shit together. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people can relate to that.
I think a lot of things like people get like obsessed with an addiction is a substance, and addiction is you're addicted to a sub when they don't realize like I wasn't an alcoholic because I drank everybody under the table. In fact, I know plenty of people who are not alcoholics who could outdrink me, but they're not alcoholics because they don't drink to escape. They drink to literally have fun, and then I would drink to escape, and that's why I'm an alcoholic. Is I would if it's all about your relationship with something. If you're doing something like Adderall or drinking to the point where you're hiding it in shame, that's probably your sign that you're drinking too much. If you're watching and listening, and I hope you're listening if you're watching. If you're listening to this, regardless of how you're taking in the information, if you're feeling like you're hiding your drinking, it might be a problem, like a huge problem. If you feel like you need to hide it, And I'm not saying you were hiding drinking. I'm just saying that's the most one that's like, I think that's the biggest one that people are like in doubt that they're an alcoholic. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so normalized, legal. Actually, 20 minutes before you hit me up, I was at the grocery store and I'm having kind of I guess, a down day. And so I walked past some high noons and I'm like, I'm gonna go home and drink and clean my house. And I'm like, 9.99. Like, no, you're not. Like, oh, kept it moving. But who would think different if I did? You know,
Yeah, yeah. The
I
girl,
would, but
yeah, the girl ringing you out is not like, here's another alcoholic through my line. No, that's not what they're thinking when they're ringing you out. They're like, oh, she's gonna have fun tonight. Like,
knowing I was just going to escape my life
and
or trying to.
just drink alone. I mean, if you're drinking alone, that's probably your sign too. Like, it's one thing, I guess, to come home from the bar with a bunch of friends, and then you're home, and then you have another drink because you've already been drinking. I guess that's not considered alone because you started with many. But even then, if you feel like you need to have a drink to cap off your night, maybe rethink some things. Take a year. If you can't go a year without drinking, and I'm not talking directly to you, Chrissy. I mean in general, like, if you can go a year without drinking and tell me that your life isn't imaginably better than it was before, I might call you a liar. Most people, like, what about you? What do you think? Like, because drinking was one of your biggest things, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can live fine without it. Now for me, drinking is like I don't like the way I feel for days or even weeks after I binge drink. I drink Friday, Saturday. Like I just don't function the same. I don't have the same motivation. I don't focus on goals. I'm just like in that survival mode again. So it does bring me back, like regress quite a bit. And
Were you drinking also eventually on top of the Adderall, or was it
oh
just
yeah,
Ad?
I've been well, no, I've been drinking since I was 11. I stopped last year with the binge drinking. There's been a few times I've had drinks or even gotten buzzed, but it's not been more than one night or even more than 1 week in a row. So it's been sporadic. One time in Florida in January, a couple weeks ago, but so it's not like it's a pattern, but not with that. With the Adderall was my biggest issue a year ago, and then a year ago I cut the alcohol out. So
So is it that you were taking? What made it the issue that about the Adderall was the how many you were taking, or were you buying off
I
the
would
streets eventually?
no, it was just how much I would take. Like at work, I didn't realize how just unhappy I was at work, and how if I was a little more frustrated than before, I'm like, I'm gonna take a 10 just because I can, and I'm gonna take a 10 just because this is shit, and I'm gonna take another 10 because I'm gonna I want to go home and get stuff. It was just a crutch. Like
Yeah.
it was there was and I would get my daily 2 times a day 30 milligrams, and then I would get 10 milligrams for whenever it was supposed to be in the evening. But I just had too much freedom. And
So were you snorting them?
no,
Okay, I wasn't sure how much down the rabbit hole you went into. You know what I mean? Like,
I have grown. Like I said, I've been addicted since 11. Like I've been doing things, so I've been through all, snorting pills. I've been through all that. So also why I thought it wasn't a problem. Well, it's not like I'm snorting them or shooting them up. Like
it was part of your lie
um
that you were telling yourself was, at least I'm not snorting them. This could be much worse if I was snorting. Then it would be, Chrissy, then it's a problem. You know what I mean? It's that kind of self-talk where it's like, no, 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 you're fine, girl. You got this. Um, I remember, I still think to this day, all the times you said to me, and I'm sure, I don't know if you still say it, but you should, you're the average of the five people you keep around you.
yeah, and that's really hitting hard today because when you're not doing the same things you used to do. You look around sometimes and it's like, I got to find new people to be around. And I'm lonely.
But the problem is what kind of people that you want into your life. Like, do you want the positives? Do you want the Katies out there that just wrapped up what book 5 or something like that?
Right.
Like just,
Yeah.
but were you? But you weren't even drinking with anybody, so it was you were doing it by yourself, but knowing what you were doing.
Right. And nobody knew I struggled with Adderall. I think I mentioned to you before, like I'm trying to cut back.
I don't even I was just as surprised to hear Adderall. I wasn't expecting you to say Adderall. I thought maybe you were
Oh,
drinking again or something. But no.
no.
Nope, not the
Adderall's,
drinking.
it's been an ongoing thing since probably 2012, 13.
I mean, it did affect your
And
friendships, obviously. I mean, we stopped not that we stopped being friends, but we weren't keeping communication. We weren't, talking.
it affected, yeah, every relationship I have, friendship, family relationship. And it's just, it would bring me up and down, and it would be on, I'd be on a constant roller coaster, like less sleep tonight, functioning on no sleep, like mood swings. It gave me a little bit of bipolar. Just so many additional mental health issues were tacked on, and so then I'm medicating to cope with that, and I cut off all my medications and got back to what I know because I've been sober before, so I feel really great.
So you're off like all mood stabilizers. What are you if I was a psychiatrist, what are you like you are bipolar or was the Adderall making you bipolar?
I think the Adderall was contributing to that. I do have PTSD, which I have CPTSD, but CPTSD isn't identified or recognized by the DSM-5. But anyway, so I think that a lot of that was what I had, and a lot of like the trauma in my childhood and life, it presents as ADHD. It presents as borderline. But I think like I've had a lot of therapy and I've learned ways to cope and rewire my nervous system, and I'm more regulated. So I don't identify with any of those at this time.
So what is the difference between PTSD and CTP CPT? What is that difference besides the C?
Um, Complex trauma is traumas that you experience throughout, over and over, maybe different traumas or same traumas. PTSD is more of an isolated event um, that happened, like, for example, I don't want to use my ex-husband, but he went off to war, and probably that was a major event that he got or that trauma from. So he is diagnosed PTSD. Whereas I grew up from birth in domestic violence with addicts and trauma after trauma, sexual abuse several times. So those are all traumas accumulating. So it's complex.
Got okay, so it's not okay, that makes a lot of sense then. That it would be PTSD to you if it happened once. Like going off
Yeah,
the
there's
war is something that happens once, so everything that happens there under that one time falls under the PTSD umbrella because you went to war to begin with. Um, so somebody could technically have grown up with CTPTSD, and then go off to war and then have both CT and regular P. That sounded weird. That even as I said it, it sounded.
I think more the PTSD is just an isolated event. You get in a car accident, like you're not experiencing traumas after traumas. Um, the C, I think, is like complex. Like there's a lot of traumas, a lot of layers to
To unwrap.
events.
To are you in therapy still though?
My last therapy session was in August, and I think like I've worked with her around 4 years. I think I'm at the crossroads where I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to go out and utilize all the tools and skills that I know. So I think I'm like that's coming to an end, and we both feel great
I
about it.
I okay, because I feel like therapists are like relationships where you have different ones in different parts of your lives, and they all have different like. Because my therapist that I had 4 years ago in LA in rehab was amazing, but we talked about all the things that landed me in rehab, and now I have therapy today that I talk about the goings on of the day to day, but have nothing to do with me going off to rehab. So for me, it's nice having a new therapist now that's different that I could start over with and talk about me sober and needing help as opposed to me needing help because I'm a drug addict. So like I feel like you can go through different phases in sobriety where you should switch up you should because then it's too comfortable. If you've been with the same person for a while therapy wise, then it's almost like your buddy. You know, you're talking to your therapist like you talk to your buddy, and then they'll say something. You're like, oh, yeah, okay, because it is what it is. But if when you switch it up, it's more. I don't. For me, it's worked. And I didn't do it on purpose. I'd probably still have the same therapist from 4 years ago if I didn't have to switch to a new one. But I'm really glad it worked out that way because I've noticed in our sessions, I don't ever talk about addiction. I don't talk about, things like me having, I don't have wants to do drugs anymore. I'm sure I have needs, but I don't want to whatsoever. I have plenty of things that I should need to do. I need more water in my day, but you know what I mean. It's all work in progress. But I think it was important to me having a new therapist now because I can talk about shit that she doesn't know that JD from his 20s that my therapist 4 years ago met. My therapist 4 years ago met JD walking into therapy for the first time at 31 after a decade of pills and 2 decades of drinking with a lot to unwrap. And now I'm at that point in therapy where like I want to talk about the last week or two. So I went like a 2 year break without any therapy whatsoever. Maybe even 3 years. Too long.
Yeah. I don't do regular therapy. I do EMDR, and so that's like bilateral movements and like rewiring the nervous system. Talk therapy has never been my thing. I do a lot of writing, journaling, and stuff like that. But um,
Because you were gonna start
yeah,
on writing a book last time we
yeah,
talked. Okay, you
I've
did
started.
start. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
How now? What is this book gonna be about?
I have so many like parts, but I think like one of the main things that the stories I want to tell is this relationship that I had with, Luke, which was very traumatic. And I think it needs to be told, but also relate that to parts of my life and things that I learned about myself in my childhood through that relationship.
Because you were dating a cop.
He was a cop until I got a restraining order on him.
Wait, is he not a cop anymore?
Mm-mm,
Can you be a cop
no,
with a restraining order against you?
no.
No.
They actually let him resign, but he had broken into my window, sexually assaulted me in front of a couple people that I had at my house. That's when I got the restraining order, but trauma bonds are crazy. So we had this dysfunctional relationship, which is part of the reason why I was so isolated. Like I didn't have good, strong relationships with my friends. And even Katie, she's been on my live before, and there's been times he's like grabbed my phone out of my hand, and just so much dysfunction, so much mental abuse. And at one point it turned me into him, if that makes sense. Like,
It what
so
is what's that saying in Batman? If like you start hanging around the darkness long enough, you start seeing yourself be part of the problem or some shit. Like I don't know, some kind of Batman saying. But yeah, you hang around it enough, you're gonna start doing it.
yeah, so I would, it was just so toxic, and that's all I can really say. Like, him and I going no contact has been really, really hard, but also really necessary. And, it's for the best. Like, think only good, like, I've reestablished relationships with my family, my friends. I don't feel so isolated. Like, nobody cares about you. He would say, like, why do you think people aren't reaching out to you? Because I'm the only one who cares. Like, I'm always going to be here. Don't you see that? Like, and I'd be like, shit, that's kind of right. Like, I don't know how I let myself get that far. I know better.
To
Like, come
your
on.
credit, it's not like you left me on red. I swear you didn't open my last message to you for like 4 months because like when you eventually reach back out, it was like just read. You know what I mean? Like literally you had just read it. And I'm like, my message was sent to you like in like April. And I was like, okay, well, she wasn't. That's when I knew right away. Well, it wasn't personal, JD. You know what I mean? Or else she just would never even fucking responded.
Yeah. April was bad. March, pretty much it started like at the beginning of the year, but it got bad in March, April, May. Had a few issues in June. July's when it really just shut down. So it's been great. It's been hard too, very hard.
April, I was a month into my hiatus, and it got so bad that I went 11 days without sleep in a row, and then I slept for 5 hours, and then went 9 straight more days.
Wow.
While my doctors were prescribing me like fucking what's the biggest Ambien, you know what I mean? Like they were giving me the meds. It just wouldn't, like Ambien did not touch me. And like I would take my Ambien and then like hide my phone from myself so I couldn't like do dumb shit or like pull Roseanne and like post dumb shit while sleepwalking on Ambien. So there's two parts to that. One, I didn't sleepwalk on Ambien. Two, I sleepwalk now on a different drug, Zyprexa. And Zyprexa works for me to actually sleep. Turns out I'm OCD. Didn't know that until recently. Like literally learned that 3 months ago that I have OCD. I thought just because I'm not shutting windows and I leave my car unlocked all the time, I'm not. I can't be OCD. No, I'm OCD about numbers. I did not realize how OCD I was about numbers. It's pretty insane, and to the point I would drive myself where I couldn't sleep. So they were trying to medicate me to knock me out, and nothing was doing. And then finally, we tested enough different concoctions to the point where I got to take a sleeping pill at like 5:30 to tire me out. Then I got to take another one at like 10:30 to knock me out. And that's the only way I get sleep. If I don't take those sleep meds, I'm awake for 18, 20, 50 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I'm sleeping again, almost too much to the point where I am. My wife has caught me sleepwalking multiple times, and she's even like, she's on these steroids for her MS, so she doesn't sleep as well now, and she'll be up all night painting. Like she's painting most of the stuff behind me now, and she'll be awake painting. And like the other day, she said I sat up, looked at her, and then she told me to lay back down, and I just dropped back down because I don't know what it is. I don't know what's. I mean, I kind of know I'm working a job that like you get yelled at all day. No one calls their doctor in hopes to have a fun interaction with a funny guy. No, everybody that calls me is dreading to talk to me. And because I've been that guy too on the other side of the phone, I never want them to call in. So like, I'll try to make a game of it if I'm in a good mood. If I take my meds and I'm like feeling better about what I'm doing, I'll try to make every single person laugh that I talk to in that 3 to 5 minute phone conversation. I'll try to make them laugh, but most of the time, it is like there's a reason I'm back in therapy and psychiatry now. Like I'm back in both, and it's not because I have health benefits all of a sudden. It is, you know, I don't even have health benefits through my job because I had COVID in January and I couldn't sign up for them on time. Like I
Oh,
had brain fog and I couldn't even think straight. for like 2 weeks straight. And that I missed, you know how you have like a window to sign up for insurance when you start a new job? I missed that
Mhm.
window by like 2 weeks. So I have to wait for open enrollment. So right now I have like shitty county insurance that's like through the state free kind of deal.
Mhm.
But man, every day is different. I wake up and I'm trying to do positive shit, trying to stay out of my head because in my head is the worst place I could be. What are you doing? Like, the did we already make plans to do this when you were walking through the store and you saw the drinks sitting there, or
No, you when I was leaving the store and checked out and everything is when we had plans. But what am I doing in terms of what?
like, well, so you was it strictly the price tag that told you no?
No, it was the first of all, don't be weak. Second of all, you're gonna feel like shit. Third of all, who knows what's gonna come of that? Like you get, you start drinking, you get a little buzz, and you start feeling all kinds of ambitious. Like, oh, let me hit this person up. Let me hit this person up, which just triggered me to think about the last time I was impulsive and drank. I put myself in a situation to be sexually assaulted again. So I
Don't they
know
go
all
hand
about
in
that.
hand? Do they go hand in hand, you think? Because you loosen your inhibition when you're drinking, so that is that what you're saying?
No, I just um I what month are we in? About a month ago, I was out downtown. My friend and I were out. We had dinner. We had a couple beers. I had a buzz. I was gonna go, and I hit up my friend, who's really not my friend, but I guess he's my friend. I don't know. And I met up with him before I went home, and it was pretty early in the night. He offered me a drink, and I just took it because I'd already been drinking. Honest to God, I think he date raped me. Um, I couldn't walk for some reason. We were at his barber shop, which wasn't his house because I had no intentions of staying the night because I was completely fine. I just was like, more outgoing for whatever reason. We I couldn't walk. We ended up at his house, and the last thing I remember, because I could not walk. Like, let me emphasize that I could not walk. This is so weird for me. We I don't know, but the last thing I remember was saying goodnight, and he said, "Don't make any TikToks about this. You promise?" And I'm like, "Oh, I promise," because he has been on my TikTok because him and his brother um and that's the last thing I remember. Then I woke up with him on top of me, and I woke up without my underwear, and it just really didn't sit well. I blocked him on everything the next day, and I let a few days go by, and I noticed like my routines were getting messed up. I wasn't waking up to exercise or to meditate, and so then I decided to file a police report, which I know nothing's going to come of it, likely.
I don't
I
know how
just did that
likely.
for
I'm
myself.
yeah. I mean, why not? Just in case, who knows who else he's doing this to?
He for sure thought he could get away with it, and that's the thing that rubs me wrong. Is like you thought like and me, like, come on, I'm not making a TikTok about it for sure. I'm gonna do what I can because I know he's gonna shit his pants when he like has to talk to a detective. Like what he did was wrong, and and then I kind of
Never
see
said
that
I
side
can't
of
make a
things.
TikTok about it.
I mean, I will. I mean, I can and I will, but I'm just kind of like
I
in
know.
this like
I know.
weird like how could somebody like it doesn't matter if I've had sex, like the police were questioning me. I'm like, it doesn't matter if I've had sex with him before. Like, it doesn't matter if I told him no. I was pretty much incapacitated. Like I couldn't walk.
Yeah, it does matter that you couldn't walk. Like these are all things that should be taken seriously because yeah, you might have learned your lesson to hang out with that dude. But who's to say he's not doing this to anybody he meets at the bar throughout the week? Let's go back to my barber shop. Like, it'll be cool. We'll drink around the chairs that I cut hair on.
Yeah, and it's somebody I've known, and like it's just been a
So
weird
why,
relationship.
yeah, why wouldn't you be able to trust him? Yeah, I'll go back to your barber
Yeah,
shop.
yeah. So I just know that sometimes I want to like I crave connection and you know and so maybe I my thought was like if I drink like who knows if I'm gonna get done what I want to get done. I want to get my house clean today. Like it's nice outside. I want to be able to cuddle in bed tonight and watch a movie and know my shit's done. And if I get drunk or if I get buzzed even, I don't know that that's gonna happen and I don't want to set myself up for failure. I want to wake up
You
tomorrow
would,
and do
I
what I
know for sure you would have ignored me
yeah.
if you had had that beer in your bag walking out the store and you saw me text you. You'd be like, "Fuck him." Phone back in the
Right.
purse.
Yep, all that shame would have come over me.
And then you would have
Uh,
drank even harder. You could have turned back in and got more. Like, well, I already dipped into it now. Yeah.
yeah, I would have definitely been at the gas station later because the 4 pack wasn't gonna do it. I know that, like, and then like the shame is another thing that like affected my relationships was just the shame. Shame is a silent killer.
It really, it like they literally made a monster out of it in the show Big Mouth. Like Big Mouth is a cartoon on Netflix and it's very funny. It's all about these kids in middle school and it's about puberty. It's all about like the uncomfortable parts. And there's a hormone monster because your hormones are through the roof, so they're monsters. But then there's the anxiety ant, you know what I mean, and who has anxiety and teaches you about anxiety. But there's also a shame wizard, and all he does is teach middle schoolers how to feel shame. And he's supposed to bring down the episode and be the bad guy. He's dressed like death, like in an all black cloak. You know what I mean? But he's called the Shame Wizard, and all his job is to give these kids to learn what shame is because we learn what shame is when we are in middle school. That's when you get bullied for the first time. That's when you're getting made fun of because you're changing in gym and you're fat. You know what I mean? And somebody sees it for the first time. And I'm saying you, but I'm talking about me. But the shame wizard definitely, you don't feel any shame. That's why kids run around naked all the time when they're 5, 6 years old. They're still running around in their diapers if they're wearing them. I don't know. I didn't have a kid till I was 5. That sounded weird. I didn't have a kid that was younger than 5 because I'm a stepdad. So I don't know when they lose their diapers. But either way, I know the little kids have zero fucking fucks to give and have no shame. And then you see that kid as a teenager and they're wearing baggy clothes and they're hiding their entire body and they have shame of it.
Yeah, interesting.
You should watch
Yeah.
Big Mouth. It's on Netflix and it's so good. I'm surprised. It's a pretty popular show when it comes to they actually age the children. You know how like Simpsons, Bart's been, 12 since 1987.
hmm
And even Bob's Burgers, it's perpetual same show. Family Guy, same thing. They haven't aged in 23 years. South Park, they don't age. You're still the same age. You're still in fourth grade. But in Big Mouth, they are having them get older. They're like sixth and then seventh and then eighth grade. And I think they're coming to ninth grade soon. But these are all things that like I forgot all about from like middle school, like insecurities that have what was I gonna say? I lost what I had in my head. But yeah, Big Mouth's a funny show. You should watch it. You can see what the shame wizard is to learn about shame, learn about anxiety. Because how old are you again?
I'll be 32 in November.
Did anxiety even exist when you were growing up?
Like as a diagnosis,
Yeah, like did you hear it? Like I never heard people using the term like and growing up in the 90s, I was born in 86, and so I never really remember hearing people talk about like I forget where I was going with that. See, this has been my day. Where was I going with that, Chrissy? Help me out.
I'm not sure, but I do remember my mom. My mom's had me when she was 37. She would say, I'm my nerves are shot. I have so much anxiety. Like, I didn't hear like, why are you so anxious? Nobody ever asked me that. I was an anxious kid. I was a shameful kid. I was a mess.
Well, didn't you say you had ADHD?
Yeah, I have ADHD or trauma. I don't know what it is because they present ADHD symptoms present just as PTSD symptoms. So sometimes I look at situations or kids and I'm like, is it ADHD or is it trauma? Especially working in the mental health field with kids, I'm like, is it ADHD or is it trauma? We just want to mask the symptoms, or do we want to do the work and rewire that nervous system? And so it's really hard to tell, in my opinion,
Yeah,
what's ADHD. I have
I
a
could
lot of trauma as a kid, so I don't know.
I could see that. I mean, it presenting the same with anxieties because why wouldn't it? Why everything that has to do with our brains and the chemical imbalances that we have is so scrutinized over and over by so many different doctors that we have so many new diagnoses. It could be that, and there's such spectrums. Like I was labeled as bipolar too. Bipolar also, I should say, not bipolar two. There's a difference. And but like to me, I don't feel as bipolar as my ex who took her own life 7 years ago from being bipolar schizophrenic. So, and it was like me saying to my doctor, am I bipolar? Because we're treating me with medicines that I recognize from my bipolar relationship that I was in. And he was like, yeah, we are. I said, oh, okay. Well, when were you going to tell me? We'll talk about it next session because this was all back and forth in messages. I sent a message saying, hey, I just looked up my medicines. Am I bipolar? We'll talk about it in the next session, but yeah, let's say you are. Oh, psychiatrists
Yeah.
are dicks like that. Therapists will be your best friend, but psychiatrists have no bedside manner. Psychiatrists are the therapists that with no bedside manner. Like they give zero fucks when they're saying something. Therapists, they don't want to upset you, they don't want to trigger you. A psychiatrist is like, no, I'm going to trigger you as much as I can so I can see what I can prescribe to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was diagnosed bipolar too when I was 16. Of course, my mom, I was on Seroquel, and I had like maybe one script of that. I never got it filled, and I traded it to my neighbor friend for whatever he had, and he was quilled out for a month. And I'm like, who wants to be Seroquelled out for a month? Not my business. So it was like just kind of
I
a joke.
I took it. It was one of the things they tried to give me after Ambien. Like they first prescribed me Ambien. Remember that April that I didn't sleep? They first gave
Mhm.
me Ambien and that wasn't touching me. Then they gave me Seroquel, and that's how I slept that 5 hours that I said in between the breaks. But then Seroquel put me in the hospital. My I took it. It was my third time taking it at 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And I was laying there, like you're supposed to lay in bed right away. And I'm laying there, and my heart feels like it's beating through my chest. And we have the cuff thing for blood pressure and heart rate and all that. So I did that. This was at 11 o'clock at night. My blood pressure was at like 180 over 120, and my beats per minute were like 150. Like my heart rate was like 150 or something like that, or 180 beats per minute. So I Googled the thing you're not supposed to do with, when you have presenting with, what are they called? Symptoms. When you're presenting symptoms, the last thing you're supposed to do is Google said symptoms because you're gonna spiral yourself out. But I Googled raised heart rate on Seroquel, and it said immediately go to the hospital, like in all black bold.
Oh no.
It says you could be dying. Like it wasn't even like it wasn't even like there was no bedside manner from Google. Google gave zero fucks about my little feelings, and it was like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to the fucking hospital and tell them what you did.
You might be dying.
You might already be dead by the time you finish this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You were
so I
supposed
went
to die 3 days ago.
went to the hospital. Went to the hospital. They loaded me up with Ativan. They're like, you're not leaving until you're. Cause they're like, did you drive yourself here? I'm like, yeah. They're like, with your heart rate that high, you drove here. I'm like, yeah. I'm not speeding literally. Just because my heart rate's up doesn't mean I'm gonna drive 90 here. They're like, well, you can't leave until your heart rate's at 90 beats per minute, the normal rate. And plus, we're gonna give you a bunch of Ativan or whatever it was, straight into your IV to try to calm you down. And yep, after about 4 hours, I left the hospital at like 4 in the morning. Might have been like 4:30, because I remember being around 4:20 and giggling to myself because I'm a child, and that makes me giggle. Um, but yeah, Seroquel sucks. Moral of the story: Seroquel sucks. Put me in the hospital. Day 3 of doing it. Took the rest of the prescription right into the toilet. Like, there's some weird alligators in the toilets right now, high as shit on my Seroquel.
Dead shit.
But yeah, it's that's the joys of sobriety.
Right.
When you
I
take a
know.
medication as prescribed and it puts you in the hospital anyway. So yeah, I don't do Seroquel anymore.
Long story short. Yeah,
Moral
don't
of the
do that.
story: I don't do that anymore. So, but medications, yeah, like I could see why you'd want to be off them because it sucks being on them. Um, I, I, I'm like giving it I'm doing the opposite of what I tell everybody usually. Like I said to you earlier, I always tell people, give it a year. You know what I mean? Like, give it a year and see what sobriety looks like for you. For me, it's give it a year of taking medicines as prescribed by doctors to see how you really feel, to see what you need or don't need. I'm like, I was my own doctor for far too long in addiction for me to pretend to be my own doctor now. You know what I mean? So for me, and I still use cannabis, um, but I don't like smoke it. Moral of the story is I don't smoke. I try not to smoke. it it's too much of an escapism right away. For me, if I take an edible and like in 2 hours it may or may not hit me, that's one thing. But if I'm trying to escape something in the moment with weed, then it's a problem, in my opinion. If I'm like, oh, this person upset me, I'm gonna go home and smoke weed about it, and I'll feel a lot better. That's where it's cut it.
Right.
That's when you're addicted to weed. So people all the time say you can't be addicted to weed. Yes, you fucking can. It's all
Hmm.
about how and why you are using it. So I think anybody can have a problem with anything, even if they are taking their own medications. It just if you're an addict or not. Deep down, if you're a fucking addict. Let's be real. A lot of us, like, I knew it early on. Early on, I knew, like, hey, not everybody does this every day, JD. Not everybody spends their day trying to score and trying to find money to score. Get over it. It's not cute anymore. You know, that I chalk that up to that was my 20s. Is what it is. That was my 20s. Can't change it now. A lot of lessons learned and take with me. I don't dwell over anything bad that I did in my addiction. anyone that I screwed over, I'm sorry that I screwed you over, but I honestly felt in that moment if I didn't have that money, it was going to be death for me. That's how I felt in those moments of desperation of like lying to this person for money or lying to that person for money or lying to my dealer for spots. Like front me or I'll,
Front
KM
Street, here I am.
front me or I KMS. You know what I mean? Like it's on you if I do it. What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. So there's some shame there, but I don't let it like affect me to the point where like I need to get high or drink about it.
Right.
Um, but thank you for being another guest for another season. This is the third season, and so you've been on one, two, and three. I think besides Mikey, Mikey didn't make it on season two. It was a brief season. So yeah, you were the only one that's hit now seasons one, two, and three for an episode in each one.
Woo!
Are you still posting talks all the time?
Um, it's slowed down the last week or so. Just starting a new job and honestly trying to kind of change how I am putting stuff out there. Like I said, I've rebuilt relationships with my family, and I've been able to forgive them, and as well as have them forgive me. And I just want to like direct it in a more positive, direct my content more positively, as opposed to like, woe is me, and these are bad people.
Yeah, it's funny
More
that
just like growth.
I finally know what it's like to have a busy TikTok page. Um,
Yeah,
have you ever heard of the comedians Tom Segura or Bert Kreischer?
I think I heard of Tom Segura, but I'm
He's on
not
Netflix.
sure.
He's on Netflix. He and Tom Segura is on Netflix. He has a bunch of specials there, and Bert Kreischer also has a bunch of Netflix specials. And they have a podcast called Two Bears One Cave, and it's them just joking around for an hour. It's the first podcast that I actually loved right away and got really into podcasting.
You
Um,
have a TikTok that's two bears, one cave.
Two Bears One Talk. You saw it.
I saw it because it says from your contacts, and I'm like, who? But who?
Did
I
you
was
go to my
like,
numbers? I have
yeah,
I have 105,000 followers there.
I know, and I'm like, who is this? Like
Why is this person like in my contacts and I don't know
contacts,
them on TikTok?
and I don't know who they are, and I'm like, yeah, okay, now I know.
That's me. Yeah, I have last I looked was 105 and change. And all I do all day, not all day long, but like if I'm going to it's been a breath of fresh air in the last 6 months. It's all like how we said early on beginning of this, like you're the average of the five people you're with, and you talked about that ad nauseum, and I talk about that now ad nauseum because of you. But it's also the average of the five things that you're watching. If you're
And
watching
listening to.
and
Hmm.
listening to all these things, your brain is not going to be happy because it's hearing dark, dark, dark. So what I've been doing is like all I do now is like, okay, I'm gonna spend 2 hours trying to find three funny posts to make that are all Bert or Tom. So I'll watch them on podcasts. I'll listen to them on podcasts. I'll watch them together on a podcast. I'll watch them doing stand up alone to find content to like edit and add the subtitles and dial it all up, make it pretty. Um, I'll do all that. I'll spend 2 hours laughing at this video while I'm editing it, and then I post it, and I'm like, I'm making people laugh because also like my dad got sick since the show. Like my dad and I are best friends. Like we share the same name. We share a lot of things. And he has stage four colon cancer now. And so
Mm.
like, but he likes those guys. So I've been able while I made that account because I know my dad watches TikTok and I wanted to make him laugh. So I made that account to post funny things from my favorite comedians to make my dad laugh. And then now I have 105,000 followers.
That's crazy.
When I wasn't even trying. I wasn't trying to like. I was just trying to fuck around. And so, of course, that's the one thing that hits for me is no one knows it's me unless I tell them.
No, that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
me. Next time you see that pop up in your suggestions, go ahead and click that follow.
I got you.
Because I will make you laugh. I will post shit that's funny. You know what I mean? Like that's all I'm doing from that page is. But I don't see who's followed me because there's so many. Like every time I go on TikTok, it's 99 plus new followers every single time I go on. I've had 3 videos hit 2 million views. So when you have 3 different videos trending that much, your inbox, I just shut off every notification. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is what these women have to go through with these big accounts. Like, all people are just like reaching out thinking I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian, but they think I'm Bert or Tom. And I made it so the bio says fan page for Bert and Tom, not Bert and Tom. And but then I just did this morning. I was like, why am I not using my all my links on this page? Like obviously I
Right.
qualify. I have 1,000 people that follow me, so I can put a live link. Why am I not dropping my links? Guess what was available for a link name?
What?
Our links. OUR our links. So now I put all Mikey's shit in there and all of my social medias in there, and it's all our links.
Okay.
And it's such an easy name, our links, that it's not like it's JD's link tree or anything like stupid. And it's been getting. I look at that. I look at that. I look at numbers. I told you I'm mostly about numbers. Thank you for coming back, Chrissy. I'm glad that we got to catch
My
up this
pleasure.
way. Like we could have, we did catch up in text, but it was really by the way, by the way, by the way. It wasn't a full on conversation, and I was kind of waiting to talk to you this way because why wouldn't
Yeah.
we catch up this way? Like that's our friendship evolved from this, so it should have been that way. So I appreciate you coming back on for season 3 and catching up and being extremely honest. Most people that are in recovery lie about the little slips, and you're like, nope, I'm putting them on my fucking wall.
Yeah, I have to. Accountability
Yeah.
for me.
So I appreciate that as somebody who was a fan of you before we met, just from your
Oh,
TikToks. So I
yeah.
do
I appreciate
appreciate
you.
the authenticity that you do try to emulate. It's not like you came on here like, no, I haven't had a drink in 6 years. You're realistic about it.
Yeah.
So I
It's my
appreciate that.
pleasure.
So
Yeah.
we'll talk
Good to
soon.
see you. Okay.
All right. It was
All
nice
right.
chatting
Bye.
again. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.